Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I'm your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 113, recording on Monday evening, September 15th, a few hours after Kevin O'Connell delivered the news that J.J. McCarthy, the Vikings' young quarterback, has an ankle injury and will not play at the minimum this upcoming game Sunday against the Bengals. We're going to get right into that to start the show and really talk everything McCarthy, the Vikings offense, Carson Wentz, Max Brosner. I mean, I'm going to get into all of it over the course of this show. So stay tuned for that. As always, this show is presented by First Resource Bank. If you don't know about it, you really should. It's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area. They have branches all over the place. And it's run by some really good people. Tim Siegley, who's the head of the thing, really likes the Vikings, really likes this community. Their information is in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you get podcasts, I appreciate you for doing that. And please rate and review or follow or whatever you got to do to help us out here in our second season recording this podcast. I kind of forgot just what it is like to try to come up with the words after something happens like something happened on Sunday night. If you attended the game and you're like Ryan Buck, who won our giveaway and was pumped to fly in from Washington with his wife to go to the game, and then you sat in the stands and observed what was just a disastrous offensive display in almost every respect, I feel for you. I mean, I could not believe the crowd and the energy and the noise and the juice that really helped the defense early in the game and placing the Falcons back. And then for it to go the way it went, I mean, it was miserable to watch. And you could tell post game with how Kevin O'Connell and everybody talked about it, just kind of the misery that they were going through, even though it is week 2 and it's a long year and all that. And you can go back to the well with those comments and quotes always. For this offense to be as disjointed, lacking rhythm, just not fluid, there's just no easy button that they've been able to find in any respect of the offense. You could tell how much it's kind of weighing. And then you get to the news that we're going to start with here. Kevin O'Connell walked to the podium at 1:30 Central, as he does, the day after every game, and he's going through the injury report, and he's talking about Ryan Kelly's concussion and Justin School's concussion and Aaron Jones' hamstring, and then he gets to the end of, that entire injury report, and he says J.J. McCarthy came in, his ankle, which had gotten dinged up on a 2nd and 20 in the third quarter of Sunday night's game, was checked out. It looked like, there was enough swelling to where the Vikings were prepared already as of Monday afternoon to declare that he's not going to play in Sunday's game, and that Carson Wentz, who the Vikings signed not even a month ago, and who had been on his couch in Indianapolis, is now going to be starting in a game against the Bengals, and Jake Browning, the former Vikings quarterback. And I mean, it's wild times. I want to start obviously with McCarthy. I mean, when I heard that news, I mean, the first place that my mind goes is just like mentally, I cannot imagine the whirlwind for this 22-year-old quarterback. I mean, you go back, the excitement of, 2 weeks ago, the excitement of going back to Chicago where you grew up to play in front of that crowd in that environment, and the first half being as brutal as it was, and then to become the hero that night in the NFC Offensive Player of the Week somehow the day after, and to be riding that high into having the birth of your child, Micah McCarthy, in the days before this weekend's game, and then for the game to have gone as miserable as it went, and then to suffer the injury, to get, sacked 6 times. Obviously, the protection was atrocious in almost every respect Sunday night. I'm going to get to that later in the show as well. But to get, as banged up as he did, free running defensive ends coming at him And I mean, there were moments in the game just on the rewatch where, like, I mean, his helmet is upside his head, like that meme that you see of Aaron Rodgers that's often floating around. And then, I mean, the play that Kevin O'Connell mentioned the ankle injury happened on was a 2nd and 20. Walter Rouse gets beat quick. JJ steps up. He tries to evade. He bounces it outside. And then Falcons linebacker Caden Ellis kind of drags him down from behind. And that was a play before Justin Jefferson, JJ McCarthy skipped the pass to Justin Jefferson on that 3rd and 9. And so as I'm going back through it, I mean, like, not to give JJ more grace than he deserves, but I almost wonder, like, could he, that right leg, have planted to be able to fire an accurate pass, or was that just an inaccuracy that we've seen from JJ McCarthy all throughout camp? I mean, he was inaccurate in the preseason game. There were many days in training camp where the inaccuracies were there. But you wonder if an ankle injury at the time would have affected that critical throw in that spot. And then he gets checked out on the sidelines. There was already somebody in the blue medical tent because this team has been ravaged with injuries early on, and it looked like a trainer taped JJ up. He stayed in the game, but I mean, yeah, really, that's where my mind really went to, just like mentally, where is, I mean, how what would it be like to be navigating, you know, all that JJ McCarthy has had to navigate over the last couple weeks. I mean, this is the NFL, so there are no excuses about it. But like, it's just all felt so big. And like that, again, that's what this league is. But as I've covered this, and Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings staff and the players, I mean, they've done everything they can do to try to minimize, you know, the role and the emphasis and the responsibility that JJ McCarthy has. But there's, like, I mean, in the end, there's just only so much you can do if you're trying to minimize that, as any smart coach or teammate would. And it just feels massive. Like, it just, the stakes feel big. You have a team with a ton of veterans signed for short-term deals who have navigated injuries. And so to try to bring along a player in a developmental kind of situation, a player who, I mean, he looks young and he feels young. I mean, when you're around him, you feel, I mean, you guys know I'm 28 years old, but he's 22, and you feel like a sense of youth. In this league, I mean, it is filled with a lot of men. And so just observing it, I don't know, you could almost sense after Sunday night's game, just like an exasperation of being stuck in mud the way it's felt now for 7 of the 8 quarters. I mean, I went through some of the numbers of what this has been so far, but JJ McCarthy thus far has the worst EPA per dropback in the NFL. If you're listening, you're like, buddy, what the hell is EPA per dropback? It's a measure of, it is an advanced metric of efficiency that really paints a picture of a guy's down-to-down effectiveness. Again, JJ McCarthy, among the qualified quarterbacks, worst EPA per dropback in the NFL. His off-target percentage, which is a statistic that Pro Football Focus tracks of, like, you know, just a guy's sheer accuracy in terms of when he throws the football. I mean, the off-target percent is 19%, which is one of the lowest marks in the NFL. The plays that just will stand in my mind from that game, from a J.J. McCarthy perspective on Sunday night, I mean, the Jalen Naylor miss down the left sideline, it's just a miss that can't happen if you're an NFL quarterback. I mean, Jalen Naylor had 3 yards of separation. I think it was against Billy Bowman, the rookie nickel who had a pretty good game. And it just didn't feel like there was enough air under the football. And again, like, if you've listened to this show and if you've read my writing now going back months, I mean, we talked, I've mentioned it, I've written about it constantly. We talked about layering. And what did I mean by that? Like, the arm strength, the sheer velocity of the throws has never been something that's really worth eyeing or paying attention to. But what has been worth paying attention to is, can J.J. McCarthy get the ball up and down at a level that you kind of have to hit certain windows in the NFL. It's why we've talked about it as much as we have. It's why Kevin O'Connell has mentioned it. It's why J.J. McCarthy even has talked about working on it as much as he has. And that was a throw down the left sideline to Jalen Naylor. I mean, you've got single high coverage, man-to-man across the board. The slot fade is the answer to that coverage. He found the answer, which is a very positive, but you just have to connect on that throw in that moment. I mentioned already the JJ throw to Justin Jefferson on the 3rd and 9 after the false start, I believe, where Michael Jurgens didn't snap the ball. And that was a throw where, I mean, it was like, that's just injury aside, what have you. If you're too hurt to make that throw in the game, probably shouldn't be in the game. But that was one. The interception late, and I can imagine at this point his body was probably, just totally worn down. But I saw some people saying maybe he thought the flag on that play gave him a free play. You couldn't even see the flag really in the screen. It just felt like a very serious overthrow of Justin Jefferson down the right sideline, intercepted by Xavier Watts. And just, all the inaccuracy stuff was kind of all over the tape. I mean, there was a Jalen Naylor catch early in the game on the right sideline where Naylor, he had to leap at like 1.5 feet to make the catch. Now, and that's not to say there weren't some impressive throws. Like before the drive that stalled after the delay of game in the red zone, I believe it was the second quarter. Some pretty impressive anticipatory throws from J.J. McCarthy to Adam Thielen to Jalen Naylor, but it wasn't bottled up enough to where you can make enough of an impact. And I said this a little bit, but you just see the youth. J.J. McCarthy took 713 college snaps. That was more than Trey Lance, almost double Trey Lance, almost double Anthony Richardson, but almost half of Jaden Daniels, of Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. The less snaps you have, the more, learning you kind of have to do. That's why last year, the plan that the Vikings had was to allow Sam Darnold to play and to allow J.J. McCarthy to kind of work with the scout team to see defense a bunch of times in a low-pressure environment, to troubleshoot his trajectories on his throws in a low-pressure environment. The torn meniscus and him not being able to, have any physical development, I say physical, but it's also mental development in terms of cognitively seeing the defense like that, it feels like it showed up. And that's why, quite frankly, this offseason and this spring, when the Vikings, free agency comes and you hit this fork in the road of which path do we go down here? Do we just roll it with J.J. McCarthy at 22 years old, who's never played in an NFL game and who really needs some more polish? Or do we, go the route of bringing back Sam Darnold? Or do we go above and beyond to pay Daniel Jones? Or do we go, sign Aaron Rodgers for a minuscule amount of money? That's it's partially why you can understand that being a conversation. At the time, you guys listen to this and probably readers of The Athletic, I think the perspective on the outside was that a lot of that conversation was being fueled by Aaron Rodgers, whereas in reality, and I said this and wrote it at the time, you were taking, this team was taking a big leap of faith to take what this roster is in terms of a lot of older veteran players on short-term deals and pairing that with a quarterback who has never played. And then we've talked about training camp. It was up and down. The Thursday of joint practice against the Patriots was an exceptional day for J.J. McCarthy, but there were a lot of rough days. I remember there was a day after, they ended it to where fans came, and it was, I believe, a Wednesday. And I remember Chad Greenway was there with his family that day, and it was rough. So, you just arrive at this place where it's just been fascinating to see how it's played out through 2 games now. And the injury, it comes at such an interesting, juncture. Like Carson Wentz, I received a lot of questions. I put out a call for questions for this episode, and a lot of people wanted to know about Carson Wentz. Like, how much faith do we have in Carson Wentz, or what has he done in recent years? I mean, Carson Wentz in 2021, and I got to go back and watch some of the tape from this season because I haven't. Admittedly, I haven't done it. In 2021, Carson Wentz played for the Colts, threw for 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, started every game that year. I did go back like a month ago, not a month ago, right after the Vikings signed Carson Wentz, and I watched the games that he played in Los Angeles in 2023 with Sean McVay. And what you see on film of Carson Wentz at the time, I mean, Sean McVay, it was a lot of quarterback run, use Carson Wentz size and athleticism, as many like ball out, one read types of throws as possible. The arm strength shows up. It absolutely does. Even still, I think he has the type of arm strength and arm talent that made him the selection that he obviously was picked, believe number 2 in 2016. But the accuracy stuff with Carson Wentz is always kind of, it's accuracy and it's field vision. Like the accuracy since 2020, the only qualified quarterback with a higher off-target percentage throwing the football than Carson Wentz is Zach Wilson. He's had 9 starts since 2022. He's got 13 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in that time. And again, just to reiterate, like, he hasn't even been here a month. And while, yes, there is carryover with what he did in Los Angeles, I mean, it is a new team, new teammates. This system, while it's similar language and similar concepts, like, it is different, and it'll be just interesting to see what they ask of him at the line of scrimmage. And then you wonder, I mean, what happens if they are using his athleticism in the quarterback run game, and if something happens to Carson Wentz, then you're turning to Max Brosmer, who has never played in an NFL game and has never really played against number ones. And while I have a lot of faith in what he's capable of and his mental makeup, I mean, to be in that situation would just be, I mean, fish out of water. And now we haven't even really gotten to the protection, which I have a lot to talk about as well. So just pretty disorienting, jarring, worrisome, I guess, to be at this place 2 games into the season and to have all of these questions come up. I mean, I was asked on social media, what happens if Carson Wentz performs really well? What does that mean? When does JJ return? Does JJ return in Dublin or London, where you probably don't have the similar, training, rehab opportunities that you'd have here? So do you keep him here? If you are to do that, do you bring him back for his first game against Philadelphia's defense and Vic Fangio and Jalen Carter? I mean, a lot of questions. We're asking a lot of questions right now after 2 games that, it's just wild to be at this place. I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the protection, and I'm going to answer a couple more questions, talk a little bit about the offensive design in general. But first, let's get a quick word from a sponsor here.
She's Jen, the ultimate Vikings fan.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Vikings Jan Show Fan Show. My special guest today is Jared Allen. So, Jared, who you got for the Vikings game this week?
Minnesota Vikings.
Me too. So that's our show. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the Minnesota Lottery, who reminds you this could be your year. Play the new
Vikings
Scratch Game for a shot at $100,000, game tickets, and more. Minnesota Lottery. I'm in. Must be 18 or older to play.
All right, Amir asked who's going to be starting at left tackle Sunday against the Bengals, and it really just leads me into a conversation about this offensive line and this protection unit that, I mean, you could argue it's been worse than points in last year. And this is a team that is spending right now $60.5 million on this unit. That's 4th most in the NFL. Ryan Kelly is in the concussion protocol. This is his 4th documented concussion in the last, I believe, 7 or 8 years. And so, I mean, for me, you really start with How quickly can a guy who has navigated that amount of concussions come back? What's reasonable to even expect at all when, if he does, and if you don't have him, I mean, he was your signal caller up front from an aiming points in the run game. He was, reliable in terms of picking up stunts. But it goes well beyond him. I mean, left tackle, to go back to Amir's question, Christian Darrisaw has not played yet. You always knew that there was a chance he might not play early in the season. And then even if he did play from the get-go, there's no guarantee coming off the injury he's coming off that he's going to just pick up right where he left off and be the all-pro elite player. I mean, that's the one thing about the way we, the staff has talked about Christian Darrisaw is like, still, even if he comes back Sunday to play against Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals, what is the guarantee? I mean, he's a human coming off a very serious injury. What is the guarantee he just, picks up where he left off? Now, obviously, it would be an improvement from what they've had. Justin School has the worst among 60-plus tackles qualified on PFF. He has the worst pass protection efficiency metric. The jarring thing is, if you look at guards in that same metric, Will Fries, the big money signing at right guard, is second worst in the NFL among qualified guards in that metric, ahead of just Bo Limmer, who, if I'm not mistaken, was like an undrafted signing from the Rams from Arkansas. And then in Sunday night's game, I mean, Brian O'Neill got beat more times than you ever expect, the guy who you need to be reliable at right tackle to be. And so that's why after the game, talking to players in the locker room and then hearing Kevin O'Connell at the podium and hearing him again Monday, he said probably 30 times at this point, it was an all-11 feel. It wasn't just JJ, it was everybody around him. I mean, like, he has a point, because as you watch the tape back, when it's not JJ McCarthy struggling a tad from an accuracy perspective, it's, James Pierce looping on a stunt and beating Donovan Jackson, who's still just a rookie, or it's Jalen Walker sideswiping Justin School and sacking the quarterback, or it's Walter Rouse getting beat quick on the play that JJ McCarthy injured his ankle. And so, I mean, Amir, you ask who's going to be starting at left tackle, whether it's Christian Darrisaw or whether it's Justin School, who's in the concussion protocol, or whether it's third string Walter Rouse, who struggled mightily in his short stint in the game. You're going up against maybe the most dynamic pass rusher in the NFL in Trey Hendrickson. And while this defense has not been exceptional, they gave up 27 points to a Jags offense that still is finding its way. Kevin O'Connell is definitely going to have to build his plan around, as much help is from that side as necessary. And I would say if they don't build the plan around that, and Christian Darrisaw starting and he doesn't have his best day in his first day back, I mean, that would be kind of faulty from that standpoint. So, I guess if I had to peg it now, I'd probably say Walter Rouse is starting the game, and he's your third string left tackle, and that's just how it feels. I mean, Christian Darrisaw, everything that Kevin O'Connell has said is that he's gotten close, but I mean, he was questionable for the week 1 game in Chicago. He went through the workout, didn't play in that game, and then did not play on Sunday night. And so, I mean, at this point, until he's out there, I'm not sure if I can expect that he's going to be. I mean, gosh, I'm going through some of these questions. Ogie Oglethorpe asks, how would you rate Dallas Turner's night overall, start to finish? I haven't watched the defensive tape back because I've been fixated on the offensive just struggles that it's been. But just from like my naked eye of what I saw in the game, I didn't get the sense that Dallas Turner was highly impactful out there. His sack was essentially a cleanup play from a great power rush from Javon Hargrave. it felt like early on the Falcons were kind of targeting Dallas in the run game. I thought the run defense in general wasn't great. Now Bijan is exceptional and Tyler Algier is very good, and the Falcons have had a sharp rushing attack now for multiple seasons, but felt like Ivan Pace was I mean, as he can get at times, like he's in certain gaps inserting into the wrong gaps, just, a little too energetic to the point he's missing some tackles. But I didn't get the feel like Dallas Turner was highly impactful on the game is what I would say. Let's see what else. Ku Fulch says the most significant cause of injuries is bad luck, the recurring recruitment of players with injury histories, the organization placing too much faith in their training staff, other. I mean, look, it's probably a combination of all that. I mean, I go back to the owners' meetings. I remember Kevin O'Connell was asked, and this was after they made a bunch of the signings that they made, about, how much faith they do have in the training staff led by Tyler Williams. And Kevin kind of joked at the time, like, when you have the staff that we have, you almost feel like you can take chances on players who have navigated injuries. But I mean, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has been forward about it in the past. Like, the probability increases that a guy's going to suffer an injury if they've suffered injuries in the past. And so, I mean, Ryan Kelly, it's not a surprise at all that he had to go to the medical tent for a toe injury in week 1. And that, I mean, you never expect concussions, but that he's injured now. I mean, Aaron Jones is a similar story. The Vikings chose to pay Aaron Jones. He is just phenomenal in the locker room with what he brings, but he navigated injuries all last year. And if this hamstring becomes somewhat of a long-term situation, now you have Jordan Mason with the backup being Xavier Scott, and you're sitting there wondering, do they need to go acquire a running back? That's why I remember I did an early roster projection maybe in the summer, and I had Gus Edwards in my roster projection as like a projecting that they needed to sign another running back. And some people at the time are like, why? You're paying Aaron Jones, you're paying Jordan Mason. There's just considerable injury risk, and there was going to be with Aaron Jones. And so, I mean, I think about a couple things. One, on the radio, on KFAN, on the podcast, in writing, I've said plenty of times that my 3 concerns for this season were obviously the uncertainty around J.J. McCarthy, the strength of schedule being a concern, and then the third was always durability with a bunch of older players coming off injuries. Like, when you sign and you have a roster littered with a lot of those players, the possibility just exists that you get to a point at which a lot of guys are suffering injuries. I mean, Andrew Van Ginkel stayed healthy most of last year, but had been an injury. The reason he was available as a free agent at the cost that he was 2 years ago was because of a very serious foot injury that he navigated. Blake Cashman, similar. Like, Blake Cashman was healthy for most of last year. He did miss a stint of time, but part of the reason he was available in free agency was because of the amount of injuries he had to navigate in New York and Houston. And the other aspect I want to say about this is, I mean, there has been a lot on this defense through 2 games. And I give the staff credit. They have cycled in and out Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, and brought in and given snaps to Jalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez and Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. But my question just would be, how sustainable is it for this defense, which has to be the calling card of this team with how the offense has looked? How sustainable is it that this defense can produce a similar output, and that players on that side can remain healthy if they're having to expend the amount of energy that they already have early in this season? I mean, this is a long year. Fortunately, Jonathan Grenard's oblique injury on Sunday night didn't seem. It looked in the moment like it could be very serious. When you lose a guy like that, and then you lose the pass rush that is supposed to cover for your secondary, I mean, it really does get dicey. Let's see what else we've got. Ryan Fogarty, why does it feel like patience with the run game is so low? I mean, part of it might be just the lack of faith in the offensive line, but I mean, if you look at the advanced metrics thus far with the run game, they've been pretty good. It's just there just haven't been a ton of carries specifically for Jordan Mason. And, Kevin O'Connell, after a lot of these games, will cite the lack of plays, but it's just a byproduct of the amount of 3-and-outs that they've had. And I put this stat out. They've had 10 3rd-and-2 or less opportunities. They've only converted 4 of those. I think 2 of those 4 have been via the run. And so, the short yardage woes just seem to remain. Let's see. DJ Walsh asks, is the next 3 weeks the biggest challenge of KOC's coaching career? I mean, that's probably the biggest challenge of his coaching career was the Lions game probably and the Rams game. And I mean, that's also on my mind. It's 2 different teams, 2 different situations, 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different offensive lines. But the last 4 games offensively, it's been rough. It's a challenge. I don't know if I'm willing to say it's going to be the biggest challenge of his coaching career. But I mean, there's no question that, operationally, can Carson Wentz get in and out, effectively with less than a month within the offense? Can they design it well? I mean, fortunately, Jordan Addison is coming back. Can they incorporate TJ Hawkinson more in the pass game? Just a lot of questions. It's definitely a challenge. I know that. Let's see what else. Purple and gold. Does Brosmer have a legit chance to compete against Wentz to start while JJ is out? I mean, look, I think if Carson Wentz were to struggle mightily, then that becomes I think if it were the Vikings, priority to throw Brosmer out there, as good as he looked in camp and as, he got the ball out quick, he processed the field well, he was accurate, he created a little bit. I'll even say, I heard the other day after one of the practices, Jonathan Allen complimenting Max Brosmer for some of the looks and some of the performance he had from a scout team perspective. So there's a lot of faith in Max Brosmer, but he's an undrafted rookie in his first season with only having 6 months in this offense to learn this offense that is complex by everyone's account. So, you'd have to see how it goes. Probably in the short term with Carson Wentz. But if there's an injury, I mean, that is the answer that comes to mind, unless the Vikings were to make some acquisition. A lot of, I feel bad for a lot of these comments, and I get here seemingly, most years where it's like you sense the passion, you sense the excitement, you sense the joy, and then you arrive at these at just such a difficult place. Pretty wild. Pretty wild to be here after 2 games. Hopefully that provides some semblance of perspective. If you want more, had a full story on JJ's injury over at The Athletic, where I do my day job. If you're new here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Apple or Spotify, rate, review, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for being here and for spending some time. Again, if you attended the game Sunday night, props for just the juice that was in that building. That was a testament to the passion of a lot of you guys. But, we'll be back later this week. I'm going to meet up with Paul Daner and do a pod. Paul covers the Bengals for us, is one of our most talented writers that we have. So looking forward to talking with Paul. In the meantime, check out First Resource Bank. And, that'll do it for episode 113 of the Alec Lewis Show. We will talk to you guys very soon.